Greetings, everyone, or maybe I should say aloha from Honolulu, Hawaii. This is Eric Cook. I'd like to welcome you to the Wednesday, August 5th, 2015 episode of Free Webinar Wednesdays. I'm with WSI Internet Consulting, where we work with businesses and organizations in helping them better understand and leverage the power of the internet as a strategic business tool. You can learn more about me and WSI online at www.poweredbywsi.com. With me this week is my good friend and Free Webinar Wednesday partner, Mr. Jeff Simpkins, who has been busy and on the road and absent for the last couple of shows. So it's great to have you back this week, Jeff. Say hello to everybody out there in Free Webinar Wednesday world.
Thank you, Eric. Greetings, everybody. This is Jeff Simpkins. I'm with Community Bank Consulting, Inc. And you can learn more about me and Community Bank Consulting online at www.communitybankconsulting.com.
Excellent.
So I think since you are broadcasting from Honolulu today, you ought to have to do, you know, like a Don Ho song, like Tiny Bubbles or something like that for us.
You know, I don't know Tiny Bubbles, but I will tell you I walked by a really cool ukulele store the other day, and it was just jam-packed with tiny guitars. But we've, Alicia, my wife, has come out with me, and it's been a short trip, not that I want to complain, but what I've heard, because this is my first opportunity to get to Hawaii, that if you come out here, particularly if you're coming from an Eastern time zone where it's a 6-hour time difference, you really want to try to stay at least a week, maybe a week and a half, and this is going to be actually under a week because we're headed from here to join some folks at the Arkansas Bankers conference so we're gonna have a long day of flying coming up. So, but fortunately, our flight isn't until later today, and that means we were able to get Free Webinar Wednesdays. Although I can say I don't know as if it'll be another time real soon where I'm actually doing Free Webinar Wednesdays at 7 in the morning, as opposed to our typical 1 o'clock. You know, we've done it from a central time zone, and I've even done it from the West Coast, which is 3 hours difference. But a 6-hour difference is a little crazy. I just hope I can stay awake for my presentation Friday morning in Arkansas. That would probably not be a really good thing if I fell asleep when I was standing up on stage presenting. So, so this is one of the rare occasions where I know Jeff joins us from North Carolina, and usually I'm envious of him sitting on his deck overlooking the lake and enjoying nice weather. And I usually get a lot colder up in Michigan a lot faster, and the roles are somewhat reversed here, my friend, but that's okay. I'm trying to be gracious about it. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll cover our typical housekeeping items, and then it'll be my pleasure to introduce our guest and kind of the topic for today. As a reminder, all Free Webinar Wednesdays are recorded and made available at freewebinarwednesdays.com. So if you like what we're talking about, or if you're interested in checking out some of the other sessions, I encourage you to stop over to Free Webinar Wednesdays and just browse some of the topics. In particular, today's discussion is going to have some relevancy to the discussion that we did last week with the folks at MXTR Automation on the concept of marketing automation and lead nurturing and kind of the automated ways that you can massage somebody through, quote unquote, the sales funnel. So it'll be interesting that we'll be able to tie those two things together. And then lastly, I just want to remind everyone that if you do have a question or a comment or want clarification and you are joining us live, by all means, please feel free to use the chat box and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And while I will probably be running the presentation, Jeff can go ahead and monitor the chat box, and we'll make sure to ask any questions as needed. So with those little housekeeping items out of the way, it's my great pleasure to introduce and welcome to the show for the first time Mr. Michael Martin with a company by the name of Hagedon Digital out here in Honolulu. And I was fortunate to have been chosen by the folks at Hagedon to come out and be part of a recent Getting Results Online digital marketing seminar that we had at one of the very nice ballrooms in the Dole Cannery, which is one of the old Dole plants that they've remodeled into a conference center, and it's a pretty cool place. So, Michael, welcome to Free Webinar Wednesdays.
Aloha.
Aloha. So Michael is the, I believe, digital marketing manager, guru. I don't know what your official title is, but you've been in the industry of digital for quite some time, and has recently come to Hagedon and is really doing a big push to digitize customers and education. As we know, we talk about it quite often here at Free Webinar Wednesdays. To make an impact, educate, and inform is really the way to go. And so we had probably 60 people over 2 sessions yesterday, morning and afternoon, some great questions, some good feedback, and it was really a good day. So, so we've got some slides that we've kind of cherry-picked from the presentation, and obviously we're not going to go through the entire 3.5 hours that we did, but just some high points that I thought resonated myself as well as Mike, and although I don't think he's able to join us today, he's not a unfamiliar face to Free Webinar Wednesdays, but our friend Voltage Gill, kind of the social media, SEO, digital guru, he was out here as well and was part of the presentation. So we had the Three Stooges, if you were, up there on stage kind of doing their thing. So with that, Mike, we'll go ahead and I'll just kind of click through some slides and we can kind of talk about it. Maybe if you want to just provide some background about the Getting Results seminar. And the thing that I was particularly interested in sharing with the audience is you had made the comment the last time you had done one of these seminars, the way that you marketed it, the types of people that were attending, and then the follow-up, and how you changed that and integrated some of the marketing automation tools that we talked about last week, and how that changed the audience. Because I think there's a lot of businesses that listen to Free Webinar Wednesdays that may be interested in doing something similar to this in their own industry and bringing people in and educating and teaching and using that as a reputation builder. And I thought, you know, the way that this was done this time around, even though you said you didn't have as many people, you felt that the quality and the relevance of the people that were there was much, much higher. So, you know, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. You know, I got to help build 2 digital agencies for some large media companies, and from that I've gotten to do, you know, maybe, I don't know, 300 of these type of seminars over the last 4 to 6 years. And I started noticing that the markets were kind of getting burned out on the, you know, free digital seminar or charging for them or whatever, but come and learn about social media, and they try to be everything to everybody. And, you know, what I noticed in the follow-up meetings with customers is that, you know, that because they had giveaways and a lot of those things, you didn't always get the right decision maker. You spent a lot of time going on follow-up calls where maybe even the prospect didn't know exactly why you were even there. You know, oh, yeah, they said some digital guy was going to come out with me on the follow-up. And I got, to be quite honest, just kind of burned out on that. And I tried to say, how can we get the right people there? And so I kind of went for more of an advanced approach of saying, you know, this isn't about baseline knowledge on products. This is about, you know, let's go straight to the matter. And during breaks, during a lot of the events and everything, customers kept going, hey, great information. It was a little bit too high, you know, baseline level for me. I wish you would have gone deeper into social media. I wish you would have gone deeper into SEO or my industry specific. But, you know, hey, it was good, but I didn't think I needed to be here for 3 or 4 hours or however long most of them are, just to hear high levels on every single digital product and service out there. So this one I drilled in and went, well, what did the customers say they really want? And what they all said is, I need more calls, I need more leads, I need results, I need to show my owners and bosses or to prove to myself that I actually get results, that there's a return on investment. So that's all I did. I didn't lead with speakers and, you know, keynotes and those kind of things, expecting that the turnout would be a little bit lower, but that we would really get more people that are saying, yeah, That's exactly what I want. And that's what we led with. And then the difference was, rather than having all the sales team blitz and send out invitations and send just regular emails, I had recently gone through all the training for Mixer and said, okay, we're the best people to eat our own dog food and really challenge ourselves to learn this stuff. The only way to learn it is to use it. And so we took, we had run some preliminary campaigns for just general marketing, about email marketing, about business automation. We have a specialty marketing division and printing division. So we kind of put some testers out there in small batches, not to our entire database. And we started really learning the process of, when you send out an email, what happens next? So what? You send out an email, you got opens, you got clicks. I think in the past what we normally do is then get on the phone and call up everyone. But, it pulls your sales force out of the field. They start resenting it, that they have to do these events, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and it's draining. They don't really understand what they're going to get out of it, and they don't see the prize at the end. So we used the system in order to market and started out with something very simple. The first email on the left was the approach that Joe and Mixer and a lot of email marketing people say is just be conversational. You don't have to have big graphics and splashy things. Just talk to them like you would in a typical letter. Hi, my name's Mike. My preferred method of communicating with you is via email. And if you like to, if that's okay with you, please opt in. That's step one with any, of this business automation stuff. Once you get your opt-ins, then you can start marketing to them more frequently without worrying about spam. But again, staying pretty conversational and having a lot of meaningful, personalized stuff that is directed towards them and their business, and then follow it up with things that have, here's the event, or here's what, special of the week or whatever. So that's the approach we took, and I was really happy with the results and the quality of people that we got. As a matter of fact, if you get, the goal usually is if you get 100 people, you're going to expect that maybe 20, 25 of them won't show up. I think everybody we invited on both sessions, we only had 2 people not show up at both sessions. So that was pretty encouraging too, that you didn't have this, we better overbook, just to make up for the people that won't show up. And, but we filled the seats to the way we wanted to.
Yeah, and I thought from an audience perspective, we had some pretty good engagement as well. A lot of times, especially in the mornings, people roll in because we started right at 8 o'clock. It sometimes is difficult to get people engaged, but we shared some videos and we asked some questions and tried to lighten things up with some jokes here or there. But I saw a lot of good conversation in between and during the breaks, and it was good. So I think definitely the right types of people were there, which was pretty cool. So
yeah, I think
let's
I
go
ended
ahead
up with like.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that I ended up with an immediate like 6 to 8 appointments per session, with hoping that we get probably 70, 80, 90% of everybody that attended will at least meet with us within the next 2 weeks. And that is something that I've learned from doing lots of these. If you don't get back in front of these customers within 2 weeks, you've pretty much lost it. So the goal is to follow up, and again, following up with 70 to 100 people in the following couple of days is almost impossible. And again, that's where business automation comes in. We can immediately touch them with a personal note. Hi, this is Mike. Thanks for attending. Really enjoyed your input. Blah blah blah. So that's why I like this system much better than the old method of everybody locking themselves in a room for 2 days prior to the event, the day of the event, and then another day after the event. Just too much time out of field.
Yep, exactly. So I guess this slide really talks about kind of the basis, and this is maybe a little bit of a recap of last week's session. But the concept around marketing automation and really trying to lead somebody through the process of kind of getting from A to B, and A is not a customer and B hopefully is a customer at some point. So if you weren't part of last week's session, this is a good recap that, ultimately I think businesses really are trying to get their message out in front of people, and ideally you want to move the needle. You want to get the person that's on the other end to do something. And in this instance, I think the goal was to try to get them to sign up and to spend an afternoon or a morning with us, learning a little bit more about the concept of digital marketing and how to get tangible results. And so this just kind of walks through that process. But, we've got some customers that provide an ebook or a white paper to download for additional information, or sign up for an email newsletter, so they are agreeing to hear from you on a monthly basis. So once that whole process completes, getting them in the, again, I use the sales funnel. I'm doing air quotes with my fingers here, but getting them in the process so that you can continue to deliver the right information to them at the right time. So maybe talk a little bit about again, still doing a little recap, but when we look at automation and when businesses operationalize the whole process of the initial touch to the last follow-up, you shared these statistics as well that I thought were pretty powerful as far as the power that an automation system can bring, and realizing it yourself.
Yeah, I think the key point here is, even though all this is available, and the big companies out there, Fortune 1000 or even, let's call it Fortune 5000 type of companies that understand this and have access to these systems, and they've seen the statistics that they'll get more sales, bigger sales, more profitable, all the things that business automation promises and has proven, they're still not utilizing it. So what that means is the opportunity in the window is huge. The reason that we haven't generally in our markets, the small, medium business markets, have even talked about it was this was out of reach for the typical small business. You couldn't go to a small business and say, hey, let's do this, and then tell them it's going to cost $12,000 a month. They'd just laugh you out. But now, as you guys have seen, this stuff can be as little as, $400 a month, and even a small enterprise kind of version is $1,200, similar to SEO or SEM or anything else, and yet the return is just too high to pass up. And so that's all these stats are stating.
Very good. Another one of the, information-packed infographics that you shared from yesterday, I thought was pretty cool. Some of the comments from Forrester. You want to maybe walk us through this graphic as well?
Yeah, all this is saying is that even though people aren't doing it, this is the classic, when social first took off, in the next 1 to 3 years, who's planning on implementing it? And when SEO was hot, and content management now and curation, this just supports that the market's there. If you start talking to your customers, chances are they are thinking about it, and they are planning to take a piece of their budget and allocate it towards some form of lead and CRM and lead management, lead nurturing, and conversion type of system. That's all this is saying.
Cool.
So the market's there.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this should be the...
Go ahead.
This should be the first slide, because you need to understand that, I would lead with this slide to prove that, anybody that uses marketing automation, they see a 53% higher, conversion rates than non-users, 3% higher annual growth. Who doesn't want that? 107% better lead conversion, 40% average deal size is higher in these kind of markets. Everybody knows, especially with digital, the original model for digital was, let's go out and get 500 customers spending less than $500 And I think everybody soon discovered, my gosh, that is as much work as one customer spending $5,000, and they're less work. And so being able to get to these customers that are going to spend residual revenue on a monthly basis with a higher ROI is much better business model for us, for digital consultants, as opposed to trying to sell $500 and under or $1,000 under packages that have short-term, kind of ad hoc or packages that really aren't geared towards getting great results. So that's what I like about this particular slide. And then, everybody wants better forecast accuracy and, better attainment of quota.
Yeah. So questions come in talking a little bit, there's a lot of focus on digital. Obviously, this was the digital marketing conference, so that's the angle that we've taken here. But is this a tool that's really just optimized for digital, or are there other types of industries that can really benefit from, the ideas that we talked about?
No, this isn't digital at all. As a matter of fact, it ties into most common CRM. So whether you run in Sugar or Salesforce or, pretty much anything with an API or where you can export CSV files from Excel, you basically can port this in, and you can be somebody that sells print. And as long as you're driving your traffic to a website or landing page or something actionable on the internet, then you can use this system. As a matter of fact, I integrated, one of the classic things is integrating telemarketing into this as well. So you have a choice. Either you do a combination. You automate it, follow up with emails and things like that. But anybody that clicked on something or opened something, we immediately handed that over to our telemarketers and inside salespeople and said, call them immediately. They were at least, it's like putting something in a shopping cart, and they have an interest, and maybe we can see from the system that they went 3 pages deep. If they had a hard bounce and just went and hit backwards, we didn't bother with them. But because you have that data, you're really honing in on that. And we also did direct mail to as many people with this that had a QR code and a Pearl on it that we led people to this same specific landing page, but we were able to tell that it came from the direct mail piece as opposed to our email marketing or our telemarketing effort.
Cool. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at this color wheel, if you will. You want to maybe walk us through what the message around this one was?
I think this was the feedback that I got. I put this in there because this is how we have traditionally sold. We go into a customer and I say, this is my example if you want to buy a watch. And this is also the classic media rep, cross multi-channel rep that also sells newspapers, sells radio, sells billboards, and then also has now been thrown into the digital arena. And we go in and we say, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. And the customer says, I get it. You guys do a lot of this stuff. So does everybody else. I mean, what's the statistic now, Eric, that the average business now gets hit by 18 to 20 multimedia reps per month saying we do digital, we do advertising, we do marketing, we build websites. And so I wanted to find something that said, we're not just selling products, but you got to start thinking in terms of we're selling branding. We're helping the customer build presence. We're starting to help them engage. We're creating awareness. The 4 pillars that are in one of the slides about we help build traffic, we help get you engaged, we're helping you get conversion, and we're helping you retain customers is the language I'm using now when I'm speaking, period. We're solving problems. We're getting them more calls. We're not selling list optimization, SEO, social media. That doesn't resonate anymore with customers. The sex and the sizzle of just saying, wow, you guys do that stuff is kind of gone. They all, a furniture guy goes to webinars now and conferences where they walk out Google certified. So, us trying to just sell them because we do all this cool stuff isn't as effective anymore. You got to actually do something for them or they're going to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it definitely is the case. The average business owner, and I think the internet has obviously enabled this, but the average business owner is a lot savvier today than they were a few years ago. And I think that's the case with any industry. And Jeff and I work a lot with community banks around the country. And I think it's safe to say if you were to sit down with a loan officer, the average customer coming in to apply for a mortgage loan knows their options, has priced things out differently, understands the mortgage buying process way, way better than before the internet, because they've gone online, they've done their research, they've watched videos, they've, maybe sat in on webinars that talk about how to apply for a home loan, how to optimize your credit score, how to negotiate the best rate. I think everybody's probably done that even when buying a car. So, regardless of what industry you're in, you have to make sure that you've got your A game and you deliver something more than just a low rate and a low cost. It's got to have some added value associated with it, or you're not going to get an opportunity to build that relationship.
Mark posted a question. He said, what is the minimum monthly budget for marketing automation to be effective?
Oh, good question.
Remember that marketing automation is just the platform. So that's one service fee. It and of itself alone is not going to do the work. So, again, it starts anywhere between, and these are my go-to-market prices. I don't know what yours are, but, anywhere between, $375 a month to about $1,300 is, really gives you it's about the number of contacts and the number of salespeople that you're pushing the leads to that determines the price. But what you also have to figure into the budget is, okay, now I need email marketing, and whether you used, and you can use this system to do that, but obviously you need to build them, and this system allows you to build email, but there's time, and then if you're going to do direct mail and other things, there's other costs involved, whether you're doing TV ads or radio ads too to try and drive people to a website. So it's not just the business automation cost, but, I think it's like anything we tell any of our customers that, if you're trying to target a little niche somewhere, if you're not spending somewhere between $500 and $2,500 just for the digital pieces or something per month, you should probably keep your money. And, of course, there's exceptions to that. And, if you're in a population of 10,000 and less, maybe you can make something less than that effective. But I generally try to put any program together and say, if you're hitting a 4 to 6 zip code area, if you're not spending somewhere between $700 and $2,000 a month, you probably don't have enough base and sample size in order to get a conversion that will give you an ROI. And again, there's exceptions. If you're a retail store working on sub-10 margins, you're going to have to do, or a sandwich shop, you're going to have to do a lot more as opposed to somebody that sells kitchens remodeling at $10,000 to $20,000 a pop.
Yeah, I think one of the points, and I think Voltage made this, was taking a look at maybe the option of doing some testing just to figure out what works and not necessarily spending the entire budget right out of the gate. I know he gave an example of a company that had a very large budget, probably bigger than most of our typical free webinar Wednesday businesses that join us. But they were willing to spend, was it like $100,000 a month or some like really, really big number, and
it was.
They had it budgeted. They said, here, we want to spend this, we want to do that. And one of the things that Voltage did was, let's just take a fraction of that and do some testing and see what works and play around a little bit and kind of put our toe in the water in a couple of different areas before we come back. Because I think with the way that the digital landscape is evolving, what necessarily worked last year may not necessarily work again. And so the value of testing and the value of digital means everything can be tracked and managed. And you made a really good point when you started talking about ROI. And I was hoping that you would bring up the kitchen remodeling example, because you shared that with me in the car yesterday on the way back to the office. Is, you know, if typically a guy that's building, you know, custom kitchens, and it's maybe one or two, and they're doing custom cabinets and countertops, you wouldn't think that, you know, a small person shop like that would really want to spend a lot of money. But if they land, you know, a couple of $30,000 kitchen jobs, and they're spending, you know, even $4,000 or $5,000 a month, which may seem like a lot if you were to go just out of the gate and say, oh, it's going to cost you $5,000 a month. They may think that that's more than what they've ever spent on marketing and advertising or promotion. But if you go back and you analyze it, you figure out where the return is, I think that's going to have a bigger impact on what the budget needs to be than necessarily what the business thinks that they can afford. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a great book out there that business brokers use called the Business Reference Guide. They put a new one out every year. And one of the things you can do is look up any business, whether it's a bicycle shop or a laundromat, and it'll tell you small, medium, and large what a typical revenue is, what their margin is, what their net is. So before you even walk into a business, you kind of have an idea of, oh, wow, you know, they got to do $2 million as a retailer, you know, to even, you know, make this thing make sense. But it gives you at least a general idea on a per business basis that will let you have some kind of idea. Am I even barking up the right tree? But I love the testing thing. We did that in this campaign even for ourselves. And we do it, you know, we're a large commercial printer out here too. And we always tell our customers, because direct mail, when you take the printing and then the postage on top of it, you know, when they say go, you know, a lot of these cost $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 just to hit, you know, like a 10 zip code area. And if you put the wrong message together or the wrong, you know, kind of a call to action, you just flush that money. So we'll say, hey, why don't you take $500 and we're going to do 3 different blasts in $500 chunks, and we're going to put 3 different messages together that kind of look like your mailer, but on this one we'll put a female, this one we'll put a male, this one we'll put a call of action based on price, this one we'll do it based on percentage, and this one will do it based on quality of service and timeliness and you know, urgency and that kind of thing. And then when we get the data back that says that one worked really well, that's what we end up printing to send out as a direct mail, rather than the inverse of going, oops, and you've already spent all the money. So it's a great way to test.
Very cool. What was the name of that resource again that you had mentioned?
If you can remember, Business Brokerage Press, if you just go to businessbrokeragepress.org or com, you'll see it's right on their banner head. That's their main thing, is they put out a book called the Business Reference Guide, and it'll be 2015. It's a $90 book, and you only need to buy it once. You don't have to buy it every year. But it is a gold mine. It'll tell you, it has every franchise in there. It has every type of business, whether it's manufacturing, supply chain, and it kind of just in a paragraph, Cliff Note version, tells you everything you need to know about that business in terms of their business model, their margin, their profitability, and, you know, what what margins they're operating on. So I have learned, I used to be a business broker, that's why I know about it. I have learned that walking into a business and saying, oh, I see you're a liquor store. Based on your shelves here, it looks like you're about 30% more beer than you are wine. And therefore, it sounds like your margins are really at about 12%. Am I correct? Instant credibility, and they'll start talking to you, is why I use that book all the time.
Wow. Jeff, this springs to mind. I don't know if you get asked these questions from your banking customers, but a lot of times I'll get questions, particularly in the marketing area. You know, I'm a $300 million shop. What percentage, you know, either of assets or revenue should I be spending on marketing? And in the banking industry, with the associations, they'll a lot of times do surveys, and they'll poll banks, and then they segment things down, and they'll give some benchmarks. and so we've been able to get access to those for our clients. But this is kind of neat. I didn't realize a resource like this existed for other businesses that maybe don't have trade associations that are doing those sorts of surveys. And
it also has the advertising budget in there as well. It'll tell you that they're spending 2 or 4% allocation, whether they have co-op programs. The other source I've used for, because I've been in media for so long, if you have access to AdMall, it will tell you everything about the business. It's a monthly fee program, but it will tell you like what you're talking about. You can go financial industry, and it will lay out every single thing about all their products, which ones they're promoting seasonally, and how much they're allocating to advertising, and they'll even have sample ads in there that they're currently running for big banks or big insurance companies.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All right. Continuing on through some of the slides. This one, there's a lot going on here. So I don't know if you want to.
There's only one point here. I was trying to, when you're talking to media people and they're like, what does all this mean? Really nets out to you're either doing push marketing or pull marketing, and where do those products fit? But the core thing is I use this one to differentiate myself from all the other players out there. And they say, everybody sells products. Well, the differentiator between us is that we have reporting, we have analytics, we have optimization and retargeting combined with marketing automation, and we have dashboards that allow you to aggregate all this data into one place to make it easier for you. So I don't try and walk through this whole thing. I purposely made it confusing to say, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, but if you look to the right, all I'm doing is laying landmines against my competition, because once you show a dashboard or an analytics or a marketing automation piece and you show what the reports look like, this is a reach local approach, by the way, is to basically say lead with your reporting and your analytics and your dashboards, because every other media rep that then walks in, the customer, first thing they're going to say is, what do you got for reporting and analytics? And they'll go, well, we got a spreadsheet. Each product you run, we're going to give you a spreadsheet. And they'll go, no. I need a dashboard that has thermometers and RPMs and aggregates all the data. They're basically
pie charts.
So this is, this is just a positioning and posturing thing for me to kind of differentiate myself against the rest of the people.
Yeah, very cool. Another, I guess, kind of still going through the marketing automation. I don't know if we really need to dive into this. I think we're kind of beating the marketing automation drum pretty hard, but I know it's pretty important, and we still getting a lot of questions from folks on exactly how it works. So this is
the thing that I got confused. The thing that I got confused at first is you can show all the charts and everything, and I was still going, what is it? And I think we've got a couple of charts in here that really netted out until I saw an actual workflow of message in, message out, response, that kind of thing. I really didn't understand it. So, this is the classic model of what marketing automation is, but you're still going, how do I do it? So.
Very cool.
This is my elevator pitch. I try to memorize this, but simply put, marketing automation, you're looking at every prospect and lead as a stage in the funnel, and it's a series of workflow that you then personalize it for every step. And the end result is basically you're going to move the prospect down the purchasing funnel so that the leads you're dealing with are ones that are further along. I think I used the example of like auto dealers. Auto dealers get tired of, I got a lot of leads. Auto Trader, Cars.com, Dealer.com, they're phenomenal at generating leads. Their complaint is 50% of them are too far up the funnel and they're just looky-loos, or they want parts and service. They're not interested in buying cars. And so that we're trying to take leads, nurture them so that when a salesperson actually makes a contact, it's a qualified prospect where the person's further down in their past research. They're now making decisions between 1 or 2 or 5 companies, and they have questions. That's a much better lead to start. And to them, you already have a relationship with them because they've been receiving emails saying, "Hi, I'm Jim. Here's the information you requested." So even when you first call them, they feel like they've talked to Jim 5 times already, and they're familiar. So it's not a complete cold call. So, and remember, no action is a good thing because you want to fill your database with people that are interested and get out to people. There's nothing more frustrating than sending to the same 5,000 people in your master database, of which you get, a 30% bounce rate every time. The goal of this is to make sure you've got a really clean list that you're marketing to.
Yeah. One question that I want to might be a good point, is we're talking about all this automation and follow-up. One of the questions that came in at the end of the afternoon session yesterday was from a gentleman that works a lot with architectural firms.
Yep.
And his question was, when does this marketing automation process go over the line and start becoming creepy? You fill out a form or you submit an email, and then people are calling you and, "Hey, we saw that you opened our email." And, when do you run the risk of being that kind of annoying little creepy company that, is almost looking at too much, or maybe giving the person on the other end the feeling that Big Brother's watching? And
that's why
we had a discussion about that.
Yeah, and that's why you need people like Mixter that, they've been through it 100,000 times, and you start learning by industry. And again, there's like 7 different templates of, welcome emails versus follow up to a lead, and every industry needs to develop their own, and sensitivity to whether you get aggressive. We talked about, how some approaches are actually the guilt approach, where, I can't believe you didn't respond, which actually works for certain things, and the time's running out, and, the urgency kind of approach. But for professional services, it's a much softer approach, and luckily there's great books out of there. My favorite is Ryan Deiss, Deiss, called The Invisible Marketing Machine, and he lays out in incredible detail, step by step. Here's best practices. Here's the 13 different approaches. Here's by industry, how to formulate a welcome email versus somebody bid on something, and then 3 approaches to each one. Try each one until you find what works for you, or you start getting that pushback where people start opting out or reporting you as spam. You're going to know from every mailing you do whether that was a good move or not, and you'll know whether to backpedal or not.
Cool. Good. I think this is that flow chart.
A few questions here. Mark said, do you use a commercial dashboard or in-house grown?
Say that again?
Do you use a commercial dashboard or is it in-house grown?
We use a commercial one that we partner with, that we've also put some development into. But there are so many, actually there really are only a few dashboards that I've ever discovered in my 9 years of experience that are worth their weight in salt. And one of them is ClickFuel, which I think was recently acquired by somebody, but ClickFuel is a good one, and then G-Shift is a great one that you can pretty much tie just about everything into. Whether you run an SEM, SEO, display advertising, email marketing, Google Analytics, all of that can aggregate into those type of platforms.
And then is HubSpot the preferred map?
HubSpot, you know, they're one of those companies where great marketing, phenomenal marketing. I think we even partner with them for certain aspects of our business.
Yep.
My issue is they are one of those super aggressive approaches. And so I think they're phenomenal. I read all their white papers because it's great advice. My experience is that most people can't, you know, it's a upsell kind of thing where you're constantly being upsold. And it's like, to me, there's options that are cost effective and do just as much. So that's my experience with HubSpot.
Yeah.
I've used them. I hear about them all the time, but they're extremely aggressive.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about HubSpot is they really invented the concept of inbound marketing. And I think on one of the slides, if I go back, this one right here. So at the top of this, you can see the display marketing, which is really push, which is what most businesses are likely doing now. They're doing ads in the newspaper, radio, it's interrupting people, it's trying to gain their attention. I've seen statistics that say on average the typical American consumer is exposed to over 6,000 marketing messages on a daily basis through offline, online, digital, television, radio, print, billboards. So the push methodology of marketing can be very challenging because you've got a lot of competition. And what HubSpot did several years ago is said, what if we were to focus on just really awesome content, provide information that people want? You know, same as you, Mike, I download all the HubSpot white papers, and I think they have me flagged internally as, yeah, this is just another guy that's getting the white papers and he's not interested in buying our service. But I go to them continually because they put out great content and great information.
They do. They're a marketing machine.
That's really, yeah, that's the pull marketing concept that Mike's talking about, is producing great relevant content that gets customers wanting to come to you because you're educating them. And then you put it into a process.
Share it. They share it too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. So whether you continue to use a platform like a HubSpot or that Mixer or MXTR automation that we talked about last week, if you didn't watch last week's webinar, that would be a really good one to check out, because Mickey and Joe really talked about the concepts of marketing automation kind of at the ground level. And then also there's a seminar we're doing next Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern that's going to do a really deep dive into that platform. And, you know, we try to keep free webinar Wednesdays more informational and educational. But that webinar on Wednesday next week is really going to be a deep dive into the platform. Might even talk a little bit about budget costs, but we're going to show you the screens, because we've had people ask us, you know, how can I learn more about that platform? So we've got that teed up, and there's a link in the session from last week that'll get you the registration page to join us on that.
And then we had someone that wanted you to repeat the book that you mentioned.
The Ryan Deiss book?
Yes.
That is Invisible Marketing Machine. And I think his website is just digitalmarketing.com. He got lucky on that.
Yeah. Is it D-E-I-S-S? I know he's got a strange spelling to his last name.
D-E-I-S-S.
Cool. Good. So this slide that came up, I liked it because it was kind of an average Joe business. This, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this a dentist that you guys are working with?
Yeah, and it just kind of nets out. It looks complicated, but basically, you know, if you start from the left, you've got somebody running a Facebook ad, a Groupon, and an AdWords. So you're driving them to a website that hopefully is a good landing page, and they're taking an action, you know, and based on what they click on, they're either going to teeth whitening and cleaning, braces, veneer, and implant. once they go to those landing pages and they've explored the content, that triggers the automation system to say, now do a follow-up email. And that email is trying to say, hey, we saw that you were interested. We're taking appointments right now, and here's our special. So then you're also always asking, hey, sign up for our email newsletter to continue to receive specials and updates about our practice. You either respond yes or no. Then there's a confirmation appointment. If you made the appointment, then there's a confirmation follow-up email, and/or it can trigger a email to like a inbound or outbound operation if you have that and have that luxury that is a live person. But either way, it could also be a third-party app where you schedule your appointment, and then this just steps through it. It says now you visit the doctor. Once they visit the doctor, the administrative person goes back in and checks that they trigger that they visited the doctor, and then it starts sending off thing that says here's paperwork to fill out, and here's 6 months later or 4 months later, 2 months prior to when your follow-up is, it's triggering off events that say, hey, it's time for your next appointment, and this is a reminder. So that is a classic, business automation thing, as opposed to trying to do it manually and use index cards or computer programs and, calendar kind of things. All of this can be triggered by the platform.
The thing that resonated with me on this slide is the fact that, and this may sound bad initially, but everything is exactly the same. And what I mean by that is you basically figure out, well, what's the process that a typical dentist or a typical attorney or a typical beauty shop, whatever the case may be, if it's a service business or whatever, what's the typical process of walking somebody through that? They've expressed interest, you want to get an appointment, you want to encourage and make it easy for them to come back. I know some businesses are using maybe even text message notifications that pop up on your phone that says, hey, don't forget, I know my wife gets text messages from her hairdresser to say, don't forget, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, just as a little reminder. But once you kind of map out what that process is within your organization, you build a workflow and you create the information instead of inventing that every time. How many businesses are going in and every time somebody fills out some piece of information that says that they're interested, they write a new email every time and send it back. Hey, dear Mike, thanks for, expressing an interest in teeth whitening. We'd love to see you. And then the next person sends a note in, and then you craft an email to that person. If you take the time to systematize the process and can build it in, it makes that whole activity that much more efficient, and you eliminate having to have staff do that every single time. And once you get it figured out, it's just a matter of replicating the process and then changing the message a little bit, because maybe the sales cycle for braces is a little bit longer because it's a more expensive purchase than somebody just showing up and getting their teeth white or whatever the case may be. But the fact that there's a lot of similarities here that can be leveraged is I think another pretty powerful component about what we talked about yesterday.
This slide is just showing you how crazy and insane it can get. If you can think of an if then but when scenario, the system can manage it. And that's really what. As a matter of fact, we ought to just rename business automation to if then but when, because that's really what it is. It is, what happens if then but when, and what do I do is really what you're doing. And this just is a very complex version of that.
Yeah. Cool. So I think this had a little bit more information specifically about what you guys are doing from a Hagedon perspective, and obviously this covers a lot of what we do at WSI as well. So I don't know if we need to spend a tremendous amount of time on this, but
what that is if you don't start out with business automation, you can do it manually. I mean, the logic's still the same. And one of the classic ways to do that is with just simple email marketing, just telling your customer, hey, look, you've got a database. Let's try and grow it and try and get conversion. My classic story I get from every business owner is, I go, how many emails do you have? And they go, oh, a ton. And I say, how many is a ton? Well, we've been building it for 8 months now, or 8 years. It's pretty big. And the answer I get most often is like 500 to 2,000. That's not that much if you think about it. But they've been sending the same newsletters to the same people. But this is just a logical walkthrough of how you can actually do a workflow process with something as simple as somebody's existing email database, and then maybe add a third-party opt-in email list that is at 25,000 to really try and get some more leads going.
Yep. So I know I have a lot more slides, and I figured we'd probably have some good conversation. We're not even going to get to those. So I know we tried sorting down what we wanted, and I think I've got at least 15 more slides, but we had some good questions and I think some good dialogue and some good exchange. So maybe to sum it up, Mike, you know, the key message that everybody took away from the Getting Results seminar yesterday, for businesses that are out there, I know we've got a lot of consultants that will listen to us, either live or on the replay, a lot of small business owners, maybe even education or nonprofit. Maybe a key takeaway to think about as people consider doing more activity online, but really looking to get results and not doing it to do it, but really to generate either revenue or donations or activity or customer growth. Maybe to put a bow on it.
You just nailed it. That, you know, I trained over 2,000 media reps over the last 4 years, and I went on thousands of calls, and the one thing that I noticed was they're pitching products, they're commoditizing it and trying to sell with one sheet. And we kind of lost the art of selling, which is, you know, what the customer told us was, wow, you just overloaded me with a lot of information. Thanks for all the one sheets. What am I supposed to put together? And if there's one thing to walk away with is make a recommendation. They're as confused about this as everybody else. Even if you don't know what is best, because you can test and everything, at least at the conclusion of your meeting, go, you know, Jim, I threw a lot at you, but based on our conversation, I would recommend one of the two following things. And just make a recommendation. You're not going to make some big dumb mistake if you set the right expectations and say this is a test. This is a place for us to start. But they want you to make that recommendation. They don't want you to leave saying, well, I'll let you think about it and let me know what you liked best. They're not going to admit that they don't know what to do. So just make a recommendation. You know, option A, option B. This is how I would start it if it were my business and my money. If that's the key walk away.
Right. So for those that are business owners that are listening, I guess, you know, if you're talking to somebody that's offering a lot of different things, put it back in their lap and maybe, and I like the way that you phrased it, and say, well, if this was your business, what would you do?
Yep.
And see what somebody says. And I think you'll tell pretty quickly if there's genuineness there or if they're just trying to sell product. And, you know, I go back to Baltage's comment, you know, what type of an agency would walk away from $100,000 a month and say, no, we don't want that. Let's do a 3-month test, give us a fraction of that, and let us just play around and see what works. Because not only does that benefit you as the business owner, because now you know that somebody really has your best interest in mind and they're not necessarily just looking to take your money, but you may end up spending more down the road. But what will happen is even if you spend more, maybe you wanted to spend $4,000 in the recommendation. You've got a lot of background noise there, Mike.
Sorry.
Hello? There we go. So even if you're thinking that you want to spend X, the test may reveal that there's more opportunity to generate that ROI that you wouldn't have suspected otherwise. So, so I think that testing and not being afraid. I mean, even I mentioned playing around and boosting an ad on Facebook. You can play around with that for 20 or 30 or 40 bucks, and just to see if it works. And the thing with digital is nothing is forever, so it can be very easily changed and tweaked. So, well, Jeff, do we have any other calls in the queue or questions, I should say?
We are clear.
We are clear. Well, Mike, I can say it's been a pleasure to have been part of your event. It's been great to finally get to meet you in person during my trip out here, and look forward to continued email exchanges, and hopefully we can find another excuse to get me back for another seminar. This is definitely a place.
Seminars and work.
Really good. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
We'll do some business.
Yeah, so we even had a couple of bankers sitting in the afternoon session, which I thought was pretty cool. So I had some of my own people there, which was pretty good. So cool. Well, that concludes my very first, or our very first, I should say, but hopefully not last, free webinar Wednesdays with at least one of us out here in Hawaii. So I know, Jeff, you've joined from Hawaii in the past as well. So now we can say we both actually been out here and done a free webinar Wednesdays. But we appreciate everybody joining us today. We'll get the recording up online and made available. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week and every week here at Free Webinar Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 a.m. Hawaii time. Until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.